And last year was confusing, to say the least, so because of that, your taxes could even be more confusing. Our I-team answers your questions about filing this year. But first tonight, scientists working to track exactly where we are with this pandemic. They say it's really about a lot more than just daily cases and deaths right now.
They say we should think about the outbreak as a series of micro-pandemics in each city across the country, since it's different for each place. These are the three key numbers scientists look at to track a pandemic. First off, vaccines. Doctors say the more people get the shot, the more chances we'll stay ahead of those variants. Then there's what's called the reproduction number. That's how many people one infected person gets sick. In Georgia and South Carolina, according to Epic Forecast, that number is below 1. That's right where you want to be.
And then there's hospitalizations. Doctors say this is now the most reliable number to show COVID spread in a community, and that is good news for us. If we're using that logic, we're doing pretty well right now. Hospitalizations on a downward trend for all of our hospitals since the middle of January. And as we told you, and you can see pretty clearly in this graph, these are some of the lowest numbers we've seen since the fall, and that is good news.
That's the trend we like. We're also working to get more and more people vaccinated. And parents, have you been wondering if you want your children to get vaccinated when it's their turn?
Yeah, it's on a lot of parents' mind, and trials are just now starting across the country for kids. Wrdw tells us what they've seen so far.
CHOG says they won't be participating in any vaccine trials with children, but experts say vaccinations for children could play a key role in herd immunity.
As a mom, I would definitely, I'm interested. My interest is piqued.
Kristen Barnett has 3 kids. She even works in the medical field, but she's waiting on the data before making any decisions.
I think a lot of people are going to ask, well, why? If kids aren't getting it, my kids never had it, why should I get it?
The primary reason, though, is not for their own protection.
Dr. James Wild is a pediatric doctor at AU Health. He says it's likely the vaccines will be fine for kids.
Do I think that the COVID vaccine is going to have a major impact on children? No, I don't, because COVID in itself doesn't have a major impact on kids.
Moderna is testing nearly 7,000 kids in their trials, while Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson are working on similar efforts, mostly focused on safety and effectiveness.
Well, the primary benefit of getting the kids vaccinated is so that the COVID virus can't be transmitted from them to more vulnerable people.
And while many children do not have symptoms with COVID-19, some do, and they can develop an even more rare condition called MIS-C. But health officials are concerned some parents will be more worried about vaccine side effects than the actual virus's effects.
The acute symptoms of the vaccine are as severe as a lot of adults have experienced. That's going to be a big turnoff for a lot of parents.
Health officials say vaccinations for children shouldn't affect this school year, but instead they'll impact next school year because the data on all of these studies is likely to come back in about 6 months. Reporting in Augusta, Brady Troutnell on your side.
And again, as Brady said, our local children's hospital not part of any vaccine trial, but MUSC Health in Charleston will be enrolling kids in Moderna's vaccine trials and also hospitals in the Atlanta area.
The threat of severe weather today forced several local events to be canceled. That includes a few vaccine clinics. The mass vaccination site in Washington County closed a little early today. They do expect to be back up and running tomorrow. In Augusta, Gold Cross was supposed to have a clinic at Trinity CME Church today. They've moved that to Tuesday. It'll be from 9 to 2. And 2 DHEC clinics in some of our more rural areas were canceled today as well. One of those in Allendale, one over in Orangeburg. So we'll be sure to let you know if new ones are scheduled for those areas.
There are also supposed to be 3 blood drives today as the Shepherd Blood Center still desperately needs blood. One of those will happen tomorrow at the Burke County Sheriff's Office from 11:30 in the morning until 6:30 tomorrow night.
And those storms we were keeping an eye on brought tornadoes like this one to states just west of us. Check out this twister. This is Wilkinson County, Mississippi, right down at the Louisiana border. And you can see that twister just making its way, beelining for that highway. The tornado left lots of damage. It uprooted a lot of trees there in Mississippi, so a big mess there.
Pretty amazing sight there, caught on camera. More tornadoes spotted across Alabama and Mississippi, leaving behind a lot of damage. Check out this home we saw in pieces. This is outside Birmingham, Alabama. The woman who lives here says she had to take shelter in a nearby ravine to escape the storm. A lot of people across the South now left to pick up the pieces from these storms. But the good news is we haven't heard of any injuries or deaths reported so far. So lucky that we dodged a bullet, but So a lot of people were not so lucky.
Yeah, and you know what? We'd rather err on this side all day long, Riley. We are the lucky. Tennyson is considered armed. He's considered dangerous. So if you know where he could be, call the Burke County Sheriff's Office. Good news, procrastinators, and I am talking to myself. Am I talking to you?
Same here, yeah.
Yeah, I figured I was. But the IRS extended the deadline to file federal income taxes to May 17th.
We'll get around to it.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner than later, but some filers are learning they owe big money while others are getting a nice surprise back on their returns. The I-Team's Liz Owens navigates us through this tax season's obstacle course.
Unemployment, stimulus checks, and PPP loans have created new hurdles for taxpayers. According to a recent study by H&R Block, filers had 56% more questions this year than last, mostly dealing with unemployment.
The doors at Intrigue Salon in North Augusta are open.
Some days is pretty slow.
But business here is still nothing like 2019.
We do have to just be cautious on how many people we can have in the salon because we can't go over 10.
The salon is empty except for myself, my photographer, and my hair girl.
How did that impact you financially?
Jenna Duggan today.
Oh, tremendously.
A $20,000 loss to be exact.
We were closed. March 21st was the last, because I remember I was doing a wedding. March 21st was the Saturday, and that was the last thing I did for like almost 2.5 months.
Self-employed, non-essential business took a big hit in 2020. Not only did they lose wages, but they also struggled longer than most to get unemployment benefits.
Oh, Lord, that was very challenging. When you own your own business, you did not get approved for the basically the basic unemployment. So we had to wait for the PUA to come out.
PUA, or Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, couldn't have come any sooner. The unemployment benefits helped her survive until she could be earning money again. Jenna was one of more than 20,000 workers in the CSRA who claimed unemployment last April, 1 month into the shutdown.
Thousands of Americans have been unemployed both last year and continuing into this year. It's a very serious situation for a lot of families.
Julie Sporsha-Smith is a program manager at the Tax Institute at H&R Block. A recent study by them uncovered 56% of Americans have more tax questions than last year due to the pandemic, with unemployment topping the list.
When you receive unemployment compensation, it's taxable on the federal return. It's also taxable on most state returns.
Jenna elected to have taxes taken out of her unemployment check, so she does not owe this year. However, many gig workers are new to unemployment and did not know to check that box and will owe.
Your unemployment compensation is reported to you on a document called a 1099-G. These are issued by state unemployment agencies or departments of labor. You can't file your return without it. A lot of people are waiting for those 1099-Gs to show up in their mailbox.
People who received unemployment in the Peach State will continue waiting too.
States are overwhelmed still processing unemployment benefits, so there is a chance you may not get your 1099-G form back in time to file. No worries though, you don't actually need the actual form. What you do need is the information on it. So to get that, if you live in Georgia, go to the Department of Labor. You want to click on Form 1099-G, and then you will go to your portal and log on. That will have your information on it. If you live in South Carolina, then you just want to go to the South Carolina Department of Employment and Workforce and log on to your account.
Regardless of unemployment status, taxpayers need to get organized now, starting with their stimulus payments.
What people really need to understand about those two payments is that even if you received some or all of it, that's not the end of the story. These payments need to be reconciled when you file your return now.
Julie says filers need to fill out line 30 of their 1040. Even if they did not receive a stimulus check, just enter 0. Skip line 30, then risk skipping a recovery rebate credit.
I got a recovery rebate credit.
Woo-hoo!
It was great because I never expected it, and I'm a tax attorney.
Don't remember the exact amount you got in stimulus money last year? No problem. The IRS has a way for you to get that information. You just want to go to the IRS's webpage, Go ahead and go into your account or create an account, and it allows you to view your economic impact payments, both 1 and 2. Take that information and put it in there when you file.
Small business owners here in the CSRA who took out loans under the Payment Protection Program can breathe a sigh of relief too. Georgia and South Carolina are 2 of 25 states not taxing forgiven PPP loans, and neither is the federal government.
Knowing what you're facing early is always better than later because there's still time to handle those unexpected situations.
Jenna avoided the unexpected by having taxes taken out of her benefits before she ever got cash in hand.
Trying to build your business back up from being off of work for 6 months and only being able to work 3 days is very difficult.
She can't afford to cut any more losses.
If the numbers don't add up, don't ignore it. We are hearing all kinds of complaints, and so is H&R Block, about tax fraud this year, mainly dealing with unemployment. So if they don't add up, you need to call the unemployment in your state right away. Liz Owens, on your side.
Okay, good advice, Sarah Liz, and good to see Jenna, also my hair girl. Good news, Georgia lawmakers passed an income tax break earlier today, so that bill will now head over to Governor Kemp's desk for his signature. So the bill changes the standard deduction amount that the state gives you. So let's break this down for you. Individuals will see that standard deduction increase to $5,400, used to be $4,600. Married couples, if you're filing jointly, you'll now deduct $7,100 instead of $6,000. So how much money are we really talking here? Well, the math works out to a savings of about $63 for married couples or $43 for an individual. So not exactly a wealth of an amount of a difference there. So overall, it adds up, though, when you're talking about everyone's, to about $140 million across the state. That's where opponents are saying this will add up. That will mean $140 million less in the state budget. They're worried after the year we've had if vital programs will have to face even more budget cuts. So supporters are arguing that Georgians need their hard-earned dollars, even if it's 40 or 50 bucks, more than ever. There was also some concern that the state can be penalized and lose federal COVID relief funding by passing this tax break, but the U.S. Treasury weighed in. They said, nope, these cuts will not lead to any financial penalties from the Fed. So if Governor Kemp signs this, the changes do take effect next year, so nothing will change on your taxes this year. You start seeing those savings in 2022.
Interesting work there. A local resource officer recognized for what he means to his school. In fact, the state school superintendent came to town just for this. We'll explain. Riley?
It is a breezy afternoon for us, and we're going to expect breezy and cooler conditions the next few days. Look at that full forecast next. Stay in next Thursday.
Well, we'd like to offer a huge congratulations for a local school resource officer. Officer Lee Peck from North Columbia Elementary is one of the very first ever recipients of the RISE Award. Now, this award is to recognize inspirational school employees in each state across the entire country. And it was presented to Officer Peck today right here in our backyard by Georgia School Superintendent Richard Woods.
Have individuals, such as our school resource officers, are extremely important. And for this individual to really, you can see that he's loved by the kids, and that goes a long way.
It absolutely does. The kids, they don't lie. You know, if they like you, they like you. And it's clear that they love him.
So congratulations. That's great news. Okay, the Medical College of Georgia will start sending more graduates to rural areas. MCG just getting a grant worth millions of dollars to help get more doctors out in Georgia's less populated areas.
And this is life-saving news. It's expected to include counties right here at home. Nick Proto is breaking down that grant for us.
Dr. David Hess at MCG says Georgia is in the bottom 10 states in terms of physicians per capita.
We're just really short. We didn't keep up with the population growth in this country. A lot of these rural counties are very, very short. Like half the counties in Georgia don't have an obstetrician. Half of them don't have a general surgeon.
Data from the Georgia Board of Healthcare Workforce says the longer students stay in Georgia for med school and residency, the more likely they are to stay long term. The board granted MCG $5.2 million to go towards scholarships for students who will commit to working in underserved areas of Georgia.
Underserved Georgia is most of Georgia. It's not like you're going deep into the woods. It's most of Georgia except a few counties around Atlanta.
The money pays for students' tuition for however many years they'll commit to staying in state. Dr. Hess says it takes about $100,000 to fund one student's tuition for 3 years, meaning this grant can pay for about 50 students' tuition. But Dr. Hess says they're hoping this is just the first step.
Gifts attract gifts, and so, other corporations now, and perhaps the state, will, see fit to contribute and to increase the scholarship.
And he says as more people move down south, having proper health care will allow Georgia to grow.
And if you don't have a hospital, you don't have physicians, people are not going to retire in your county, and it'll be very, very hard to start a business. So it's very hard to attract new business unless you have good health care.
In Augusta, Nick Proto on your side.
Dr. Hess says even they'll have about 260 kids in the program just next year, and they'll be spreading the money out over the next few years, hoping more grants and more scholarships come through in the future.
Okay, listen up. If you watch Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, and I know most of you do, because of March Madness, the basketball tournament, the two shows will not run at their normal times tomorrow and then again on Monday. New episodes of Wheel of Fortune will run at 10 in the morning. Jeopardy will be right after that at 10:30 in the morning, Friday, and then again on Monday. Both will still be right here on News 12. Tuesday, it's back to normal, but just know that. Know that. It's a big deal for a lot of people.
Yeah, we'll try to keep reminding you. The men's tournament starting today, but we do have plenty of action to go over on the women's side as well. We're going to hear from Dawn Staley and the Gamecock women coming up.
On your sideline, sports brought to you by the Hawk Law Group.
The 2020 South Carolina Gamecock women's team looked destined to win a national championship prior to COVID stopping last year's tournaments. A year later, the Gamecocks are once again among the favorites to go all the way. But because this is a younger team than last year, head coach Dawn Staley is still expecting some jitters.
Again, it's their first time going through an NCAA tournament game. So I'm sure they'll have some jitters, but hopefully it won't be for long and we can jolt them back into being who we were. When we won the SEC Tournament Championship.
It's also worth noting the Gamecocks will be without Lily Grissett, who suffered a leg injury. And to finish things off, how about Matt Jones at the Honda Classic? I'll have more on this tonight, but Jones tied the course record with a 9-under performance in the first round in what looked like to be some beautiful weather. Right, Riley?
That's right, Mike. Hey, that's looking like you.